Hello, everyone. Here we go. The last assignment of the semester. Brownie box label poster. Are you excited as I am? After this, you're all done with this class. So the Brownie box label poster is due on December 14th, and you have up until December 15th at 11:59 p.m. to hand it in for a reduction in points. Again, I'm showing section 2, which is due at 5:30. Section 6, of course, yours is due at 8:30 a.m. So, just like I always do, we'll start with the rubric. So here we go. This assignment is worth 50 points total. 15 of those points are related to the content or content accuracy on your poster label in reference to these chapters. So be sure to include all the applicable required information from the following chapters to the guide. Chapter 3 is general food labeling requirements. Chapter 4 is the name of food. Chapter 5 is the net quantity of content statement. Chapter 6 is the ingredient list, which includes your allergens, color additives. I don't think many of you are going to have color additives, but if you do, you have to declare them appropriately. And chapter 8 is claims. If you want to say low fat or high fiber, whatever it is, there are requirements for those claims. So you want to refer to the labeling guide, which is printed by the FDA and refers to the Code of Federal Regulations that covers the labeling of foods sold in the United States or manufactured and sold in the United States. Or if a food is imported and sold in the United States, it still has to follow these labeling regulations. Okay, so general food labeling, basically you have to, on the front of the box, you have to have the name of the food. I suggest putting a picture of the food because how many of you buy products with no graphics or images at all on them? And then on the front of the box, you also, toward the bottom is where you normally see it, you want to include the net quantity of contents. So the way that you would do that is an easy way to do that is go back to your recipe that you created for the other project and you add up the weight in grams of all the ingredients minus the liquid ingredients like the water and oil, and then you come up with the net quantity of what's in the product, and then are in the carton, and it's net weight because the box usually has weight, so you're not paying. If it says 16 ounces net weight, that means there's 16 ounces of the actual product, the brownie mix in the box, not not packaging. So boxed mixes typically run anywhere from 519 grams to about 531 or 32 grams of net weight. Yours, it could be whatever you come out to, but just a reference point. So if you're greatly different than that, that's okay. If you're more than that, it's probably better than being way less than. So typically I'd say in the 500 to 600 gram range is the standard brownie recipe. If you end up including the like chia seeds with water, that's okay. So if you end up keeping the liquid in there when you come up with your net quantity statement, that's okay as long as it's written in the right format and you understand that net quantity means the product, not the packaging as well. And there are two ways. Chapter 6 shows you there are two ways to declare your allergens. You can have the type of the allergen in parentheses after the word or name of the item in the list of ingredients, or you can do what's known as a contains statement after the ingredient statement that says contains colon milk, eggs, fish, whatever it might be. Of course, for you, you're not going to have any milk, eggs, soy, peanuts, or wheat because of the criteria for the other assignment in creating the new recipe. So, chapter 7 of the guide covers the nutrition facts panel, but that was recently updated and the guide has not been revised yet. So, don't use chapter 7 because the information is going to be wrong as far as the nutrition facts. So, I included the final or the Federal Register on the decisions to change and update the nutrition facts. The biggest changes that you need to be aware of are the font size of calories per serving, the removal of the declaration of calories from fat, and the inclusion of calories from added or the quantity in grams of added sugars. So these labeling changes, as we've discussed several times throughout the semester, are in direct relation to current research trends that show dietary fat to not be as evil, in quotes, of course, as once perceived, and added sugars or sugar in general, processed sugars, um, starting to people, well, the science is starting to show that they aren't that great if overconsumed. So you need to inform the public, the general population, of how the quantity of added sugars that they're consuming with the hopes that it gives people an opportunity to self-regulate and monitor and not overconsume. So that's just to be aware. It's a new awareness of the added sugars. So that's one of the driving forces of the label change, and that's discussed in the notes of the Federal Register that I'm going to show you in a little bit. So for this format, it is a single slide. So basically open a PowerPoint or Google Slides, whatever it is. But it has to be a PPTX file or you can convert it to a PDF if you need to, but don't send me a Word document with this on there. That's not the assignment. It's a single slide poster style presentation, all content presented on one slide. If you have 2 slides, you don't get the 5 points that are available. If you have a slide and then something hanging off the side of it, no, everything must be on one slide. It is completely possible to do. Format. You need to have the front of the box or the primary display panel, as it's called, on a single. So basically, how you do this is on your single slide, insert a shape, usually a square or a rectangle, to represent the front of the brownie box containing all the required content. It's very important to remember that all text and images should be within the lines of the box shape. So essentially, you're making the front and the back, or the front and the side of what could be used as a brownie box. So you want to have everything staying within the lines of the rectangle or square that you have defined as your as your shape for the front of the brownie box. That's worth 5 points. Again, with the formatting, we have the side or the back of the box. On that same slide that you inserted the front of the box, you're going to insert a second shape, usually a square or a rectangle, again, to represent the side panel or back of the box containing all the required content, including but not limited to the nutrition facts panel and the ingredient statement. Again, all text and images should be within the lines of the box shape, and that is worth 5 points. So if you notice, of the 50 points available, 15 points is on format. So that's very important. Another 15 points has to do with the nutrition facts panel. Generate a nutrition facts panel for 16 servings. Must use the nutrition label generator tool. Homemade nutrition facts panels will not be accepted. This is super critical. Again, I'd say every semester there's 3 or 4 people that try to make their own nutrition facts panel. It takes a long time and it's very difficult to get it to look right. So don't even try to do that. You can click this link right here for online labels. It has a label tool builder, and it brings you right to the nutrition label generator. I'm going to show that website in a few minutes after I go through the other links. Again, if you can't figure out how to work this, let me know before the assignment is due, because if you submit your assignment with a homemade nutrition facts, that's 15 points lost right off the bat before the rest of the assignment is evaluated. So when you go to the label generator, you have the option to select the old style or the 2016 style, which is the revision. You want to select May 2016 final rule revision of the nutrition and supplemental facts labels. That's what you're going to use. Now, if you're wondering how in the world you're going to make this nutrition facts panel work, here's a suggestion. You can take your list of ingredients and quantities that you developed when you did your create a new brownie recipe assignment. You take that and you go to a recipe building tool, maybe MyFitnessPal, or there are countless number of apps available for free right now, where you can generate a recipe. So you put in all of the quantities or the quantities of all of the ingredients in your recipe as you listed in the create a new brownie recipe, and then you set the number of servings to be 16. When you set that recipe for 16 servings, your recipe generator will give you the calories and macros based on one serving out of 16 for the ingredients that you plugged into the app. So you would take those numbers for one of the 16 servings, and you would put in, calories, fat, protein, carbohydrates, fiber, sugar, added sugar. So the information that you're putting onto the nutrition facts label itself is for one serving. And you build your recipe out based on 16 servings. So we're saying that the box contains 16 servings. One of them contains this many calories and this much, and the macros. So when you do this, make sure that you have the oil and water, which has no calories, but whatever the whatever the ingredient, make sure all of the ingredients that are going to be in the finished product are built into the recipe so that you have an accurate nutrition facts panel. And then the last thing, the last 5 points, of course, are for completeness and creativity of poster content. So what I'm going to do now is show you of the a few examples from previous students. Again, in showing you these, they're not guaranteed to be 100% correct, but it's just an example of what it could look like. So here you see it's one slide, and they're chocolate peanut butter brownies. Now, I said they're not necessarily, so for this assignment, when this was created, they were allowed to use peanut butter. So that's why they're labeled here. Again, here's a picture of the brownies they actually made with that frosting on top. I think they won the competition that semester. Here's the net ingredients, the net weight statement on the bottom. And if you look, it's 521 grams. That's typically the standard amount, like 520 to 530. So that's cool. It's nice flower logo, sunflower with bananas, because there were bananas in here, I believe. And then you look at the ingredients, all-purpose flour. So when you look at the allergen statement, they chose to go with the second style, which the contained statement with wheat, peanuts, soy, and milk. Again, you're not allowed to have wheat, peanuts, soy, or milk, but for this semester, this project, they were. So you have the calorie, and here's the nutrition facts. See how this label was generated? It is very difficult to make one of these without the nutrition facts label generator. So here we go. Front of the box with all the information, side of the box. Nutrition facts, ingredients, allergen statement, and manufactured by. I'm going to show you another one. Here we go. I didn't move this one out of the way, so I can't see what I'm showing you. Okay, so make it vegan fudgy brownies. Again, the front of the box has the net weight, the per one serving. You wouldn't put that there, but they're talking about the 4 boxes, which companies are putting on voluntarily. Here we go, nutrition facts panel, which was built in the generator, and then ingredients and distributed by. So all the information is there. Instead of doing a side of the box where this is smaller, the nutrition facts with the ingredients underneath, they decided to make it like the back of the box. But again, it all fits on one slide. So front of the box with all the information, and then back of the box, 2 separate squares. And the next one we have is Vegan Sisters Death by Chocolate Brownies. So high in protein, if you're going to make that claim, you need to make sure that it is a valid claim according to the claims chapter. And then they put 9 grams of fiber. Now, to declare fiber, there's a requirement with a maximum amount of fat a product can have per serving to, propose that it is a high fiber food. So I would double check that. The net weight, they have it listed in ounces. Of course, it's not correct. So again, I'm telling you, these are just an idea of what they can look like, but there's not a guarantee that the info is going to be correct. And this one is also missing. If someone is looking over it real quick, you might be able to figure out what is missing. The nutrition facts panel is fine. The ingredient list, content wise, looks okay, but it's not real. I mean, looks to be accurate, but the appearance is okay. What's missing on the back of the box or the side of the box, but based on this box, it's the back, is the distributed by. So something to be aware of. Those are just some examples. If you have questions, of course, just let me know. Where are we going to next? Let's see. Here we have, where is it? The food labeling guide. You can see it's 132 pages long. It has all of the information that you could ever want or need, except for the new nutrition facts. But everything's here. It tells you what you need to have on the front, on the side. But you kind of, based on what I'm telling you, can kind of figure out what's needed. You don't absolutely need to read every page of this guide. But if you want to refer to it to make sure that you have what you need if you're unsure. Next on our list is the Federal Register. So this is 258 pages, but in here, if you just do a search, you'll find information about the final rule revision. These are all the different, this is just talking about all the different um, daily recommended values, things that were changed, measurements. There was a proposal by some people to have the label show teaspoons and cups and tablespoons for serving size instead of grams. And the FDA said that they will never do that because they need to use grams as an accurate measure of mass. So that's something that you can check out. But more important, well, it's all important, but probably in terms of making sure that you're doing it right, if you had to fast forward through some of the things, you want to make sure you definitely come here. And this, because this is what you need, absolutely required. The nutrition label generator. Click the link, select new 2016, choose label format. It could be any one of these. I would probably just go with the basic vertical layout, and you just put in the information. Servings per container would be 16. And then rounding, you could put default for rounding, quantity, units, serving size, serving sizes in grams, and then the what you're going to get from your recipe builder are the calories, total fat, cholesterol, dietary fiber, protein. Well, you can read, you can see everything here. Added sugars, sugar. Then just push the generate button. Again, make sure your recipe builder is set to 16 servings. And when you input the information here, you're inputting the calories and macros for one serving only. If you put the total calories, you will lose points. Okay, so that's the label generating tool. Hold on. Let's bring us back to the Canvas assignment listing, the Brownie box label poster. Again, it's worth 50 points. It is due December 14th. You can hand it in for a reduction in points up until 11:59 p.m. on December 15th. Once you hand this in, once you hit submit and upload it, your time in NUFD 150 is done. You're all finished after that. And you can start to enjoy your winter break, which I just found out is going to be extended by a few weeks with a late start to the spring semester. So once you get this in, your vacation begins. It's been a pleasure working with all of you this semester. As always, if you have any questions, you can send me a message in Canvas or send me an email. And that's it. Thanks, everybody.